The air in the reclaimed substation hums with the low thrum of old transformers, a steady pulse against the clatter of a city waking up. The scent of ozone and stale coffee hangs thick, mingling with the faint, metallic tang of hot circuitry from the war surplus transmitter. Hand-labeled vinyl records stack precariously beside a console patched with kente tape, a testament to signals found and frequencies held.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
In Saragucucho, we're reading 72 degrees Fahrenheit with partly cloudy. Airflow is northwest at about 6 miles per hour. First up, the internal compass. A speech club promises freedom, but what's the actual cost of code switching your soul? And how do we build an inner architecture that values every facet of self? Lex, what's buzzing on the wire?
Togee. We're tracking the Polyglot Persona Project at the Midtown Community Center, a bilingual speech club. They've identified that nearly 40% of bilingual youth in cities like New York report feeling a fundamental disconnect between their language skills and their authentic identity when code switching, which translates to reduced civic engagement and self-worth. This club directly exposes that structural tension within individuals. Their innovative methodology includes narrative prompts, role-playing scenarios, and facilitated peer feedback, leading to a self-reported 60% increase in confidence and a 25% reduction in anxiety related to expressing complex emotions across linguistic boundaries.
It's like the trickster Anansi, who can shapeshift but always carries the thread of his true self. This club isn't just about fluency, it's about reclaiming narrative. They're trying to weave that authentic thread back into public life, ensuring the stories told in English or Spanish or both are structurally sound from the inside out. They're building an internal language bridge, honoring the ancient wisdom of bards who could speak to many tribes.
And that structural tension Lex mentioned isn't accidental. Our educational systems often prioritize assimilation over authentic expression, creating a default monolingual mindset that implicitly devalues linguistic duality. This club is a direct counter-architecture to that systemic pressure.
Patching in a caller, the critical thinker. You're on the signal.
This club sounds empowering for individuals. But what's the broader societal impact? Does it just create personal comfort, or does it actively build stronger civic structures? Who ultimately benefits from this kind of identity work?
Copy that, bringing it back to the main thread.
The benefits extend far beyond individual comfort. When youth can express themselves authentically, they engage more deeply with their families, bridging intergenerational communication gaps. They become more confident advocates in school, pushing for more inclusive curricula. And critically, they bring a richer, more diverse set of perspectives into civic discourse, building a stronger, more representative public sphere. A viable alternative to this approach would be traditional language schools, which focus purely on grammar and vocabulary, or relying solely on online translation tools. While efficient, those paths bypass the critical human element of self-expression and cultural integration, leaving a structural void in identity and denying the provenance of a full self.
Indeed, traditional methods often treat language as a tool, like a single thread, but the self is a complex tapestry. This club understands that. It's about weaving a whole cloth, not just polishing a single strand. It's the difference between a simple map and navigating the labyrinth of self.
Instead of just internal practice, what if they co-opted existing community stages? The club could partner directly with the Flushing Public Library's popular storytelling series to host monthly identity jam sessions, inviting broader public participation. These would be open mic forums and facilitated discussions, not just for club members, but for anyone grappling with their linguistic identity. That's a direct, playable step that translates personal work into public resonance, actively building a resilient civic architecture by celebrating diverse voices.
So the chosen next move here is to move from personal practice to public performance. The Polyglot Persona Project will host its first public identity jam at the Flushing Library next month, amplifying individual voices into a collective chorus. This builds a resilient inner architecture that favors dignity and consent in self-expression. From the quiet work of self-expression, we turn to a very public revelation. Next, a public figure's private battle becomes a shared moment of vulnerability. How do we process the loss of a guiding voice and confront the fragility of memory in our civic spaces? Lex.
Togee, Bill Ritter, the iconic WABC anchor for 23 years, just announced his retirement, revealing an early-stage Alzheimer's diagnosis. This immediately exposed millions of New Yorkers, his loyal viewership, to the stark reality of cognitive decline. His disclosure brought a national conversation about aging, memory, and public vulnerability directly into the living rooms of an estimated 2 million viewers across the 5 boroughs daily. In New York City alone, over 200,000 residents live with Alzheimer's, and his disclosure shines a crucial light on this pervasive, often hidden struggle.
He's been the city's storyteller, a modern oracle delivering the day's events. Now his own story, like an ancient manuscript slowly fading, challenges us to value the present moment of clarity and the wisdom he offers while it's still vibrant. It's a cultural moment asking us to confront the impermanence of even the most stable voices, echoing the ancient Greek myths of mnemosyne, the personification of memory, and the profound tragedy of its erosion.
This isn't just a personal announcement, it's a structural disruption. Our society often sweeps cognitive decline under the rug, creating a silence around a deeply affecting reality. Ritter's candor forces us to confront that structural silence head-on, demanding we acknowledge the humanity in vulnerability.
Call is on. Go ahead.
His courage is inspiring. But does this create a new pressure for public figures to disclose private health issues? What's the cost of that transparency, and who truly benefits when personal struggles become public spectacle?
That's a critical question about the ethical architecture of public life. A clear alternative path for Bill would have been a silent exit, preserving his privacy entirely, or transitioning to a less demanding role without public disclosure. That choice, while personally valid, would have forfeited immense advocacy potential and the opportunity to shift public perception on a wide scale. It would have left a structural void in the national conversation about aging and brain health, especially impacting caregivers, medical researchers, and policymakers seeking to destigmatize the disease.
To remain silent would be to deny a powerful story, a wisdom that could aid countless others. It would be like a hero choosing to keep their quest a secret rather than sharing the lessons learned. His choice, however difficult, builds a collective memory, a shared provenance of struggle and resilience.
Instead of just retiring quietly, he's chosen to leverage his platform immediately. His team could collaborate with the WNYC archives to create a digital legacy hub of his best work, not just as a historical record, but as a teaching tool. And he could launch a brain health blueprint campaign, a playable public awareness game, using his own story as the central narrative. This campaign could include interactive online symptom checkers, community workshops on early detection, and resources for caregiver support, turning confusion into actionable vectors for others across the city and nation.
His decision to turn personal vulnerability into an actionable vector for brain health is a powerful act of dignity. The chosen next move is Bill Ritter's immediate partnership with the Alzheimer's Association NYC chapter to launch a Know Your Brain public awareness campaign focusing on early detection and support. From personal vulnerability exposed on a local stage, we now turn to a geopolitical vulnerability, where the stakes are measured in displaced populations and potential conflict. Same dossier, new angle, keep the thread tight.
Lebanon's state news agency reports multiple Israeli airstrikes on villages like Eita, Ash-Shab, and Qiyam in its south, directly impacting civilian infrastructure. Over 30 strikes have been reported in the past 48 hours alone. Simultaneously, Israel has expanded its evacuation warnings, affecting over 250,000 residents across 43 communities in northern Israel, creating a massive displacement crisis. Already, over 100,000 people have been displaced in southern Lebanon. Civilians on both sides are exposed to immediate physical danger, profound psychological trauma, and the destruction of vital services like agriculture and healthcare.
This isn't just a news report, it's a replaying of ancient cycles, an echo of tribal lands under siege, forcing families to carry their lives in a single bundle. It's like the myth of Sisyphus rolling his stone, eternally seeking peace on contested ground, a cultural pattern of conflict that seems to defy resolution, exposing the fragile provenance of home. It's a geopolitical Gordian knot, tangled by generations of mistrust.
And the international community's failure to enforce existing resolutions leaves a structural vacuum, allowing this cycle of violence to persist. The current observation mandates are proving insufficient. What's needed is active intervention and a new architecture of accountability.
There's a caller on the line.
Beyond the immediate human cost, what's the long-term regional stability calculation here? Who truly pays the price for this constant cycle of conflict? And what mechanism could even begin to break it, to build an architecture of consent rather than destruction?
The long-term costs are staggering. Generational trauma, a continuous brain drain from the region, and the destruction of cultural heritage and economic potential. A robust alternative to this escalating military response is a multilateral diplomatic offensive, engaging not just state actors, but also civil society groups in a parallel track. Specifically, the immediate implementation of a UN-backed, internationally monitored ceasefire enforced by a significantly expanded UNIFIL mandate to secure all border areas offers a different structural path. This requires commitment from the Arab League, the EU, and global powers to ensure the provenance of peace, not just a temporary pause.
The architecture of conflict is a fortress built on fear, constantly being rebuilt after each attack. An architecture of consent, however, is a bridge built on mutual agreement and sustained by shared interest. It's the difference between a story of endless battle and one of a binding covenant.
The immediate playable step is to activate safe corridors now. UNIFIL, rather than just observing, could actively establish secure humanitarian zones and logistical hubs in southern Lebanon and northern Israel. This would involve designated, internationally guaranteed safe routes, specific time windows for movement, and real-time satellite mapping monitored by independent NGOs to ensure civilian dignity and prevent further targeting. This isn't about passive monitoring. It's about direct, on-the-ground intervention to protect civilians and ensure aid delivery, demanding consent from all parties for humanitarian access.
The chosen next move is to press for these safe corridors and immediate, verifiable ceasefires, demanding an architecture of consent over the architecture of conflict. The UN Security Council must convene an emergency session to mandate these protective measures, ensuring humanitarian agencies like UNICEF can preposition aid for the estimated 100,000 displaced children. We must build resilient civic structures, even in the shadow of strikes. That's the sovereign decree tonight. Anansi, Lex, Kaylin, thank you. And to our critical thinker, thank you for challenging the signal. The hum of the tube amps deepens slightly, a warm, resonant thrum. A faint static crackles, hinting at distant signals, but the core transmission holds its ground.
Glitch noted.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.